Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, 1979 to 1990. Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Iron Lady, Margaret Thatcher. His political career and achievements. Everything about the crew and Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, Margaret Thatcher. Her life and everything about him. Part 4. By 1987, unemployment was falling, the economy was stable and strong, and inflation was low. Opinion polls showed a comfortable conservative lead, and local council election results had also been successful, prompting Thatcher to call a general election for the 11th of June that year, despite the deadline for an election still being 12 months away. The election saw Thatcher re-elected for a third successive term. Thatcher had been firmly opposed to British membership of the exchange rate mechanism ERM, a precursor to European Economic and Monetary Union, believing that it would constrain the British economy. Despite the urging of both Chancellor of the Exchequer Nigel Lawson and Foreign Secretary Geoffrey Howe, in October 1990 she was persuaded by John Major, Lawson's successor as Chancellor, to join the ERM at what proved to be too high a rate. Thatcher reformed local government taxes by replacing domestic rates of tax based on the nominal rental value of a home with the community charge or poll tax, in which the same amount was charged to each adult resident. The new tax was introduced in Scotland in 1989 and in England and Wales the following year, and proved to be among the most unpopular policies of her premiership. Public disquiet culminated in a 70,000 to 200,000 strong demonstration in London in March 1990. The demonstration around Trafalgar Square deteriorated into riots, leaving 113 people injured and 340 under arrest. The community charge was abolished in 1991 by her successor, John Major. It has since transpired that Thatcher herself had failed to register for the tax and was threatened with financial penalties if she did not return her form. Thatcher believed that the trade unions were harmful to both ordinary trade unionists and the public. She was committed to reducing the power of the unions, whose leadership she accused of undermining parliamentary democracy and economic performance through strike action. Several unions launched strikes in response to legislation introduced to limit their power, but resistance eventually collapsed. Only 39% of union members voted Labour in the 1983 general election. According to the BBC's political correspondent in 2004, Thatcher managed to destroy the power of the trade unions for almost a generation. The miners' strike of 1984-85 was the biggest and most devastating confrontation between the unions and the Thatcher government. In March 1984, the National Coal Board (NCB) proposed to close 20 of the 174 state-owned mines and cut 20,000 jobs out of 187,000. Two-thirds of the country's miners, led by the National Union of Mine Workers (NUM) under Arthur Scargill, went on strike in protest. However, Scargill refused to hold a ballot on the strike, having previously lost 3 ballots on a national strike in January and October 1982 and March 1983. This led to the strike being declared illegal by the High Court of Justice. Thatcher refused to meet the union's demands and compared the miners' dispute to the Falklands War, declaring in a speech in 1984, "We had to fight the enemy without in the Falklands. We always have to be aware of the enemy within, which is much more difficult to fight and more dangerous to liberty." Thatcher's opponents characterized her words as indicating contempt for the working class and have been employed in criticism of her ever since. After a year out on strike in March 1985, the NUM leadership conceded without a deal. The cost to the economy was estimated to be at least £1.5 billion, and the strike was blamed for much of the pound's fall against the US dollar. Thatcher reflected on the end of the strike in her statement that if anyone has won, it was the miners who stayed at work, and all those that have kept Britain going. The government closed 25 unprofitable coal mines in 1985, and by 1992 a total of 97 mines had been closed. Those that remained were privatized in 1994. The resulting closure of 150 coal mines, some of which were not losing money, resulted in the loss of tens of thousands of jobs and had the effect of devastating entire communities. Strikes had helped bring down Heath's government, and Thatcher was determined to succeed where he had failed. Her strategy of preparing fuel stocks, appointing hardliner Ian McGregor as NCB leader, and ensuring that police were adequately trained and equipped with riot gear contributed to her triumph over the striking miners. The number of stoppages across the UK peaked at 4,583 in 1979, when more than 29 million working days had been lost. In 1984, the year of the miners' strike, there were 1,221, resulting in the loss of more than 27 million working days. Stoppages then fell steadily throughout the rest of Thatcher's premiership. In 1990, there were 630 and fewer than 2 million working days lost, and they continued to fall thereafter. Thatcher's tenure also witnessed a sharp decline in trade union density, with the percentage of workers belonging to a trade union falling from 57.3% in 1979 to 49.5% in 1985. In 1979, up until Thatcher's final year in office, trade union membership also fell from 13.5 million in 1979 to fewer than 10 million. The policy of privatization has been called a crucial ingredient of Thatcherism. After the 1983 election, the sale of state utilities accelerated. More than £29 billion was raised from the sale of nationalized industries and another £18 billion from the sale of council houses. The process of privatization, especially the preparation of nationalized industries for privatization, was associated with marked improvements in performance, particularly in terms of labor productivity. Some of the privatized industries, including gas, water, and electricity, were natural monopolies for which privatization involved little increase in competition. The privatized industries that demonstrated improvement sometimes did so while still under state ownership. British Steel Corporation had made great gains in profitability while still a nationalized industry under the government-appointed McGregor chairmanship, which faced down trade union opposition to close plants and halve the workforce. Regulation was also significantly expanded to compensate for the loss of direct government control, with the foundation of regulatory bodies such as Oftel 1984, Ovgas 1986, and the National Rivers Authority 1989. There was no clear pattern to the degree of competition, regulation, and performance among the privatized industries. In most cases, privatization benefited consumers in terms of lower prices and improved efficiency, but results overall have been mixed. Not all privatized companies have had successful share price trajectories in the longer term. A 2010 review by the free market think tank the Institute of Economic Affairs states fairly twit. Does seem to be the case that once competition and/or effective regulation was introduced, performance improved markedly. But I hasten to emphasize again that the literature is not unanimous. Thatcher always resisted privatizing British Rail, and was said to have told Transport Secretary Nicholas Ridley Railway, "Privatization will be the Waterloo of this government. Please never mention e-railways to me again." Shortly before her resignation in 1990, she accepted the arguments for privatization, which her successor John Major implemented in 1994. The privatization of public assets was combined with financial deregulation to fuel economic growth. Chancellor Geoffrey Howe abolished the UK's exchange controls in 1979, which allowed more capital to be invested in foreign markets, and the Big Bang of 1986 removed many restrictions on the London Stock Exchange. In 1980 and 1981, Provisional Irish Republican Army, PIRA, and Irish National Liberation Army, INLA, prisoners in Northern Ireland's Maze prison carried out hunger strikes to regain the status of political prisoners that had been removed in 1976 by the preceding Labour government. Bobby Sands began the 1981 strike, saying that he would fast until death unless prison inmates won concessions over their living conditions. Thatcher refused to countenance a return to political status for the prisoners, having declared crime is crime is crime, it is not political. Nevertheless, the British government privately contacted Republican leaders in a bid to bring the hunger strikes to an end. After the deaths of Sands and 9 others, the strike ended. Some rights were restored to paramilitary prisoners, but not official recognition of political status. Violence in Northern Ireland escalated significantly during the hunger strikes. Thatcher narrowly escaped injury in an IRA assassination attempt at a Brighton hotel early in the morning on the 12th of October 1984. 5 people were killed, including the wife of Minister John Wakeham. Thatcher was staying at the hotel to prepare for the Conservative Party conference, which she insisted should open as scheduled the following day. She delivered her speech as planned, though rewritten from her original draft. in a move that was supported across the political spectrum and enhanced her popularity with the public. On the 6th of November 1981, Thatcher and Taoiseach Irish Prime Minister Garret FitzGerald had established the Anglo-Irish Intergovernmental Council, a forum for meetings between the two governments. On the 15th of November 1985, Thatcher and FitzGerald signed the Hillsborough Anglo-Irish Agreement, which marked the first time a British government had given the Republic of Ireland an advisory role in the governance of Northern Ireland. In protest, the Ulster Says No movement led by Ian Paisley attracted 100,000 to a rally in Belfast. Ian Gow, later assassinated by the PIRA, resigned as Minister of State in HM Treasury, and all 15 Unionist MPs resigned their parliamentary seats. Only one was not returned in the subsequent by-elections on the 23rd of January 1986. Thatcher supported an active climate protection policy. She was instrumental in the passing of the Environmental Protection Act 1990, the founding of the Hadley Centre for Climate Research and Prediction, the establishment of the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, and the ratification of the Montreal Protocol on Preserving the Ozone. Thatcher helped to put climate change, acid rain, and general pollution in the British mainstream in the late 1980s, calling for a global treaty on climate change in 1989. Her speeches included one to the Royal Society in 1988, followed by another to the UN General Assembly in 1989. Thatcher appointed Lord Carrington, an ennobled member of the party and former Secretary of State for Defense, to run the Foreign Office in 1979. Although considered a wet, he avoided domestic affairs and got along well with Thatcher. One issue was what to do with Rhodesia, where the white minority had determined to rule the prosperous, black-majority breakaway colony in the face of overwhelming international criticism. With the 1975 Portuguese collapse in the continent, South Africa, which had been Rhodesia's chief supporter, realized that their ally was a liability. Black rule was inevitable, and the Thatcher government brokered a peaceful solution to end the Rhodesian Bush War in December 1979 via the Lancaster House Agreement. I stop at this point today. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep exploring the world's incredible stories. Soon, we will publish Part 5. If you have any comments, please leave us your comments. Because they are important to us, thank you for watching.